Hello everyone, I'm Liz Robson, CEO of Worth It, and Worth It is a social enterprise in the UK that specialises in the early prevention of mental health problems in children and young people using applied positive psychology and coaching psychology. Now, this is not officially a positive psychology model, it's from sociology by Michael Ungar, who's got the most wonderful book. Here it is. The model is in this book, Working with Children and Youth with Complex Needs. So the more and more, that we operate in this space, I work a lot with schools, supporting them to prevent the mental health problems of young people and tackle the challenges that vulnerable young people are having, which are becoming increasingly complex, especially after COVID. So we have issues around mental health problems, substance misuse problems, negative coping strategies such as self-harming, high risk behaviour, school avoidance, just multiple behavioural issues, multiple factors caused by a lack of psychological resilience. But if we're just looking at the individual and saying you're not resilient enough to cope with everyday life, then we're actually gaslighting them, because we've created a system that these young people with such complex, difficult lives are trying to navigate in, and we're not equipping them with any resources or support that's helpful for them to navigate these complex systems that they operate within. So we might be working at one level, we might be doing a bit of tinkering over here, we might be doing a bit over here, we might be teaching them some CBT to manage their thoughts. But if we're not actually changing the system that they operate within to facilitate their ability to change, then we are basically, it's not going to work. It's not working. You can tell it's not working because the increase of mental health problems are significant, and we're also having situations like the rioting going on right now that we've got in the UK, which a lot of the people involved in that are working class white British youth who are the kind of abandoned generation. So if we are not looking at how equipping these young people with the skills and resources enabled to think clearly and have positive relationships and operate with kindness and empathy, then of course they're going to do stuff like what they're doing now. Like, I literally can't watch it. It's so bad. Anyway, on to this really helpful but mind-blowing model that you might not. I want to build awareness of how, when we're working on one aspect of resilience, so when we're working on a coaching approach to developing resilience, which is what I teach in my programs, we're really working on the psychological system, which is the second layer of that circle, and we're helping young people increase their psychological capacities for well-being and resilience. But through coaching, I really think that coaching helps them develop the interpersonal skills and the relationship skills and the communication skills and the self-belief and the agency and the self-worth for them to operate across the other systems. And also for us as coaches or us as practitioners that work with vulnerable youth to realise that we also have a role and remit in engaging with these other sources of support for the young people that they're operating within. I'll give you an example in a minute. So we have the biological system, like the physical body, how they understand their biology, things like sleep hygiene, emotional regulation. If a young person has had a traumatic upbringing and they haven't learned the skills to emotionally regulate, they are not going to be willing or ready to receive you working on their mindset. It's just not feasible. There's a whole piece of research around trauma-informed positive education, which is integrating trauma-informed work with applied positive psychology within education, positive education. So first of all, we have to allow the young person to be able to regulate and emotionally access support. Then they have to build the relational capacities to then trust and engage with a supported, trusted adult. Then we can start to work on the psychological resources for well-being and resilience. So if we're just going in gung-ho with our gratitude journal saying, hey, young person with a complex traumatic experience that hasn't got a bed to sleep in, that's hungry, got no food, no electric, no water. Their parents they've got domestic abuse in the home. Their dad might be an alcoholic. They might have a new baby in the home. They might have dogs barking all the time. They might have getting in trouble for their school uniform being dirty or incorrect, or they can't afford new shoes, whatever. That's a kind of home life that many young people in this country have, and we're saying to them, hey, like, can you change your mindset around what you're dealing with? It's just like a bit of a slap in the face, isn't it? So first of all, we have to like emotionally help them navigate and understand their emotional experience, their somatic experience, like how they feel in their body, so that they can then access the psychological systems. So that might be working with them on emotional literacy, calming strategies, coping strategies, understanding like how trauma is affecting them, flipping their lid, and all that sort of stuff, trauma-informed stuff. And then we have the psychological system, which is a second layer out, which is how are they thinking and operating, and what are the psychological resources that they have in order to navigate and negotiate with the system that they operate within, that they exist within. We cannot take the person out of the context. The two operate, like, interplay with each other. A lot of interventions are designed to only operate on the individual level, and that's one of the major critiques of positive psychology, is that it only supports it's all about individual change. But if we don't support the individual to be better able to negotiate the situations that they're in, and champion for themselves and advocate for themselves, then it's nothing much is going to change. And that's one of my issues with some of the coaching stuff, and I've been in the coaching field for 13 years now, is that, you know, the sky's the limit. You just have to think yourself and set goals, and then you'll be able to achieve them. No, you absolutely won't. That's bullshit. If you live in abject poverty, there is a ceiling, and there is a trap that you might be within, that thinking more positively isn't going to get you out of. But helping a young person develop their own worth, their own voice, their own agency, their own belief that they can achieve more, that within the system that they're within, that they can advocate for themselves, that they can access support and agencies and people that are around them, and resources, and that they have resources within themselves, amazing ability to cope, that they just might be applying that amazing ability to cope in a maladapted, unhelpful way. That if we can support them, say, wow, that's your strength, the fact that you're so courageous, the fact that you're so honest, that you've got this sense of injustice, this sense of fairness that you feel is being challenged. Like, how can you use that as in a positive way, in a helpful way, that's going to help move you forward, rather than to keep getting in trouble at school all the time, or to get involved with people that are detrimental to your life outcomes. Helping them understand that positive relationships, and how to build positive relationships, and how to trust people, and how to have rapport. So the second part of a trauma-informed positive education is repairing relational capacities. So many young people that are operating this complex system feel that they've been failed and let down, and many of them have been failed and let down by the system. So they're so completely disillusioned. They think everyone's against them, that no one's going to hear their voice. So one of the ways to help them to develop their psychological system of operating is to work with them through a coaching approach on their ability to communicate and interact and trust a supported adult. And I really think coaching, I mean, there are other methodologies, but my approach is coaching, and using that way of being of coaching to help, and that relationship of equality that they might not have experienced before. Like, I'm going to be here with you, we're going to figure this out together. Like, well, how do you want to work together to help you move forward and navigate the system in a much more helpful way, that's going to be better for you, for your life, for your well-being, for your to prevent some of the possible future outcomes that might happen. So how's coaching going to help? So there's several things there. So a coach can first of all, a coach can work with a young person to build that trusted adult relationship. They can help them work on their emotional literacy around understanding why they're reacting and behaving and feeling in certain ways. Then they can help them with their interpersonal skills and their relationship skills and their communication skills. We can even work on confident walking and body language and eye contact and phone calling techniques. Like one of the coaches I've been training, she's supporting her young people who are on a NEAT prevention program who are care leavers to phone the doctors. We take these things so for granted that people can, oh yeah, just phone the doctor. Yeah, just phone them. Like, you don't know how to phone people. They don't phone people, text people. Or we change the environment that they operate within to have a text service. Like in Leicestershire, where I'm based, there's a school nurse texting service where you can text, and it's been so successful that it's rolled out nationally. They know young people don't phone call, so they set up a system to text the school nurse if you feel like you want to self-harm. So that is changing the built environment in order to meet the needs of the cohort of the vulnerable young people. So where we're operating as professionals in this sector, we are really only working on the psychological systems level, but we're working with our young people to help them navigate the other layers of the system. For instance, if a young person is school avoidant, we might be supporting them by liaising with school to actually talk about what it is around the atmosphere or the reactions of the staff or feelings around the other pupils feeling that they're going to be mean to them or pick on them, or the staff don't believe them, or that it's overwhelming because of X, Y, Z reason. That actually helping the young person identify what the reasons are, instead of just saying, well, you be more resilient to those reasons, actually helping them have a voice to go back to school and say, these are the things that would help me, but some things need to change within the built environment, like some things need to change within the social environment in order for me to access that approach. So we can be too focused on addressing the individual mindset and mentality and their individual capacities and resources without then going back into the system and getting the system to change around them. So the other environment is social environment. So how they operate within peer groups, how they operate within social systems. So a way to champion school avoidance, and that's a huge problem at the moment, emotionally based school avoidance, is actually maybe they need to engage in a peer group outside of school, like a youth club, if there is one that exists, or sports team, or maybe you need to liaise with a group of supportive friends that they could meet with at break time. They only go to school for that and then they come home again. So it's about these baby steps, and that they have the voice, they have the agency to understand what is it within the system that is preventing them from moving forward, and then how are you coaching them on the systems for psychological systems to help them navigate and negotiate with the broader system. And then we have the built environment. So one of the major factors of poor mental health in this country is poverty and housing, and built environments, school buildings and community buildings and no youth clubs and stuff like that. So hospitals. So without us being able to go and change the built environment, it's like, how do we support the young person to navigate that built environment? If you're working as a sort of key worker in a homelessness prevention project, you can coach them on how do they fill in paperwork to change the housing that they might be in, or how do you support them to complain about the mold that they might be in their home, because all of those things are helping them build their psychological resilience to cope with things, rather than just put up with it and take it and just fuel their worthlessness further. And then we have the natural environment, which is might be engaging with nature, how they are within the wider system. So it might be that a young person needs to get out and about in the countryside. If they live like where I live, there's quite a lot of countryside around nearby. There's also quite a lot of rural poverty and ex-coal mining communities. So it might be that going up the woods with a family is, or a friend is, really helpful for them to get that social support, which could be a stepping stone back to school. So an example that I've got is one of my, actually almost cried, I almost cried yesterday when I read this. So I've been training a group of coaches who work in a NEAT prevention program with care leavers, and a young person was misusing substances in order to cope with the fact that he's in care and he's leaving care soon because he's getting too old to be in care. And he was saying, you know, and he's in trouble with the police, so youth offending's involved, youth substance misuse are involved, and how homelessness and housing and things are also involved. So he's like saying none of the other support workers that I have are listening to me. So the girl who's the woman, the lady that I've been training to use coaching in her work, the first activity she did was talk about their coaching relationship and how they want to design the relationship together and what the ingredients of that relationship are. So he was saying, oh, respect is really important to me and being listened to and heard because I don't feel anyone else is listening to me. So he's like, okay, that can be the foundation of our relationship. She's like, so what do you want to achieve? What are your goals? And he's like, I want to stop using weed. I want to not be in trouble with the police for anymore, and I want to like move forward. So in the reflection she wrote, coaching works. He has not been in trouble with the police for 3 months or 4 months. He has accessed a substance misuse support service locally. He is now attending skills for life to transition out of being in care, so like equipping him with life skills, and he's starting to like look at apprenticeships or something like that. So like this is a young person that could be written off by society, that could go down a criminal path, as actually through the coaching process she's helped. So what the things that she was working on is coaching him to phone the doctors, coaching him to access support, coaching him to move forward, coaching him to have belief in himself, coaching him to see what his strengths are so that he can access the resources in the environment and in the system that he's operating in. If he'd been left to his own devices without her support and that relationship that she had with him to move him forward, then I can't say that he wouldn't have done that, because that's the problem with early prevention, is you don't know what happens if you don't intervene, but the likelihood of it happening is far less than him having that person to coach him to navigate through the systems and the resources and support that's available to him. So that's how coaching applies to this model. So we're mainly, to recap, we're mainly working on the psychological systems, but we're coaching young people who are vulnerable, operating in this complex system, to access the resources and support within the system that they're in, to understand and navigate it better, to develop biological systems that maybe facilitate their ability to change, like sleep hygiene, or like that guy I was talking about, like not using substances anymore. So there you go. So that's how coaching can work. If we are not supporting resilience, if we're working on developing resilience for young people who have got traumatic and complex lives, and we're not helping them navigate the complex system that they're in, that change is only going to go so far. So bear that in mind. So if you're either working for a school or you're in a school and you want to support your complex young people who are struggling with many issues, you can train to be a coach, and then you can help understand how you can coach them to navigate through the system that they're in. And you can find out more by going below on the video, and there's my free course, Introduction to Coaching Young People, which talks about a lot of psychological theory and why coaching is an intervention to work with young people. And I've got lots of articles on the website, and if you want to apply to become a coach, to learn more about positive psychology and coaching psychology, tools and resources that fit within that psychological system for developing resilience, then sign up below. And if you are a school that wants to transform your social environment in order for you to facilitate the capacities for wellbeing and resilience within the environment, I have a program called Wellbeing Club, which works at more of a system transformation level. Unfortunately, I am only one person. I cannot change the built environment or the natural environment, but I can help train people to work with young people to help them access those resources that are available to them that they either can't see or don't believe they're worthy of accessing, or whatever the barriers to change might be, help them understand those barriers and prevent them becoming obstacles for life. So that's it from today. I'll see you again soon.